Hello everybody and welcome to the Derek Ruby Show. I am your host, the previously mentioned Mr. Ruby. Many people out there are excited for the new Halloween and I am one of them. But some people aren't as excited because of this.
Yeah, I mean, your grandmother is Laurie Strode. She was almost murdered.
Wasn't it her brother who murdered all those babysitters?
No, it was not her brother. That's something that people made up.
So I am going to attempt to answer the question, why the Halloween movies had to change. Spoiler alert for the previous movies, but to understand this, we have to understand the Halloween timelines. So we have Halloween, Halloween 2, then we have Halloween 3, but that doesn't really amount to anything. Then we have 4, 5, and 6. Now branching off of 2, we have a second timeline with Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection. Then we have the remake timeline done by Rob Zombie, which has Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. But that's its own separate thing and it's completed and it has no bearing on this. Gee, I wonder why some people didn't like those movies.
I'm not listening!
Now we have a new Halloween movie which is ignoring all the previous movies including part 2, thus creating a fourth timeline. So again, the question is, why did they do that? Well, let's look at their options. If we go with timeline 1 and we look at part 6, which was a complete mess in production, the final part of the movie is very open-ended, and you would have to resolve the Cult of Thorn and the curse and all that kind of bullshit. And even though this is a favorite timeline by many fans because of the character Jamie Lloyd, who was in part 4, it also has part 5, which is not really liked by a lot of fans. And besides the fact that it would be a complete convoluted mess to pick up from that point, Laurie Strode died in that timeline. Now, if we look at the second main timeline, which has H2O, even if you don't count Resurrection, then Michael is killed in this timeline. But if you do count Resurrection, which you should because it is part of that timeline officially, then Laurie is killed in that timeline.
I'll see you in hell.
And on top of that, this happens. And nobody wants that shit to be canon anymore. Now a third option would have been to do another remake series. But the last time they did that, it divided fans. Some people liked it, some people didn't. And if they were to try to do a remake again, more than likely it would have the same result. Now you might be asking yourself, but Derek, why do we have to get rid of Halloween 2? Michael and Laurie have always been brother and sister. Why would they do this? Well, several reasons really. To address the first point, Michael and Laurie were not brother and sister in the first original cut of the original movie. This was added for television a couple years later by John Carpenter, and he even admits that he doesn't like Halloween 2, and the only reason that he wrote it was so that he could get a check for it and still get royalties from the franchise. Now, people are often divided on Halloween 2. Some people look at it as a complete movie when you watch it with the first one. I would say 75% of fans, give or take a little bit, really genuinely love this movie, and I'm one of them. I love the Michael mask with the blood tears. I love the atmosphere of the movie. The one thing that this movie has really going for it is the reason you shouldn't use it, and that's the ending. Dr. Loomis and Michael both blow up in the explosion, and it's a perfect end to the entire series with just those two movies in mind. The problem with the two main timelines that start with either 4 or H2O is they just kind of ignore this. We have to suspend our disbelief in both of those timelines to accept that Michael and Loomis both survived. And honestly, it waters down the ending of part 2. By ignoring part 2 and all the other movies, they don't have to sift through a convoluted mess of stuff and try to make it make sense for the new continuity. And there's one thing that most fans, not all, but most will universally agree on, is that Halloween 1 is a masterpiece, a cult classic, one of the godfathers for the entire slasher genre, and considered to be one of the scariest horror movies of all time. And the best way to try to capture lightning in a bottle twice is by going back to the original and what made it special. And in order to do that, they had to ignore everything else. So that way what's old is new again, and they can reinvigorate this franchise with a clean break. Now there are some negatives I can see about the new movie. For one thing, by disregarding all the other sequels, it brings Michael Myers' body count to a very low number. And in terms of the movie world, it kind of takes away the mystique of the Shape. And because it doesn't have a connection to Part 2, it does diminish Dr. Loomis's legacy. But to a lesser extent, Halloween H2O already did that. Also, they're going to have to explain how Michael got caught at the end of the first Halloween, which isn't as bad as trying to explain him getting blown up. Now let's look at the positives. David Gordon Green and Danny McBride met with John Carpenter, and for the first time probably since the first movie, he's excited to be involved with the project. He's blessed the film, he's scoring it, and I'm sure he has a little bit of a creative hand in it. They also got Nick Castle to reprise his role as the Shape, and for all intents and purposes, he is the definitive Michael Myers. On top of that, they got Jamie Lee Curtis to come and reprise her role as Laurie Strode. And she's already been killed off in 2 timelines, and she's had a hell of a career. It's not like she needs the money. When you see the mask in the trailer, it actually looks like the original mask, or at least what the mask should look like after all these years. And I'm sure most of you watching this have seen the other Halloweens, and the mask just never has looked right since Halloween 2. All the other masks, they just look terrible, or okay at best. So if nothing else, the trailer shows me that they could get at least that detail down. And speaking of details, another thing that a lot of the other movies miss is this scene. That's right, for the first time ever, a sequel actually acknowledges that Michael got his eye fucked up. This is the first one where his eye will actually be the way it's supposed to. Now, the trailer is littered with references to Halloween H2O, Halloween 1, Halloween 2, even Halloween 3. I'm not going to point them out to you, but if you would like to watch a video about all the Halloween Easter eggs that you missed, check out Slash and Cast channel. They did a very nice video on it, and let them know that I sent you. Now, trailers can be deceiving. I normally don't watch them beforehand, but I couldn't help myself with this one. It does kind of bother me that it shows him in the closet at the end because there's a jump scare taken away that I wouldn't know is coming. But you can tell that the guys that are making this movie are fans, and that's what you really want. I would not be surprised if there's Easter eggs to every movie in this new one. It appears to me that there's some good nods to the fans, and that a lot of love and time was put into this. And the fact that a lot of the original cast members are excited and on board really says a lot to me. And just remember, I am the end-all be-all. My opinion's what matters. You will agree and you will obey. Just kidding. Your opinion matters just as much as mine, and that's all this is. This is my opinion. So bottom line, the reason that the Halloween movies had to change is because it was the most practical and logical thing to do. Look back at what made the franchise great and run with it. And try to capture that spirit of horror that this franchise has been lacking for a long time. I think the one universal thing that we will all agree on is if this movie's good, it's going to hear praises and the fans are going to love it and they'll be talking about it for years and it'll have sequels and we're all going to be happy because the franchise will be reignited. And if it sucks, you guys will be right back here in this video telling me, I told you so, Derek. You'll be letting those writers know, you'll be giving them shit for years. And hey, remember, all those other timelines still exist and you still get to enjoy them whether this movie is good or bad. So I want to know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with me or if you disagree. Are you looking forward to this new Halloween movie? What is your favorite Halloween timeline? What's your favorite Halloween movie? Do you like Halloween 3? And any other Halloween related topics or questions, leave them down in the comments. And with that said, thank you guys for listening to The Derek Ruby Show. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. And as always, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.